I have a mental illness. I have depression. Are you going to then tell me that I'm ADHD? Are you going to then tell me that I'm not allowed to have children?
It's not for me to decide, but it's the authorities to decide.
But you said mentally ill people shouldn't have children.
I'm saying they shouldn't be encouraged.
That's what you said, though, and I really
children.
take offence to that.
Hello, and welcome to Women Unfiltered, where each week we bring you frank and honest debates, all from a female perspective. On the show today, the dawn of a new era. Is the UK's first womb transplant offering fresh hopes of motherhood for the trans community? And the rise of bimbos. We discuss a new generation of women who are attempting to reclaim bimbo-ism and turn it into a trademark for empowerment. As always, we'll be filling in the blanks of some of this week's trending news headlines. And later, your questions will be answered. Joining me for all of this today are three fierce females. Playboy model and entrepreneur Aisleyne Horgan-Wallace, social commentator Christine Smith, and writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. But now, buckle up, because this is Women Unfiltered. First up, and biological men are set to carry their own children for the first time. This comes after surgeons at the Churchill Hospital in Oxford successfully completed the UK's first ever womb transplant surgery on a woman born without a uterus. Now, for trans women, dreams of being able to conceive their own children could in time become a reality. But while UK law obliges medics to offer biological and trans women the same care, surgeons aren't yet medically ready to perform this type of procedure on trans patients. Christine, I'm going to come to you first. What do you make of the possibility that trans women could do this?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, you remember that film Frankenstein? That's the first thing that really pops into my head.
Wow.
Second thing, I don't think we should be encouraging mentally ill people to have children. Third thing that pops into my head, I guess this is kind of inevitable, because what happens when women stop having children? I guess now we just have to let men take over.
Wow, very powerful statements. Aisleyne, I saw you raise your eyebrows there.
For me, I say live and let live. If people want to live their own life their own way, I'm not going to interrupt them or be self-righteous like I'm perfect or I know what I'm doing all the time. Or, I mean, to say someone is mentally ill, like that, I think that's really disgusting, actually, of you, and you shouldn't do that.
Well, actually, gender dysmorphia is a mental illness in the same way that
I have a
body
mental
dysmorphia
illness.
is.
I have depression. Are you going to then tell me that I'm ADHD? Are you going to then tell me that I'm not allowed to have children?
It's not for me to decide, but it's the authorities to decide.
But you said mentally ill people shouldn't have children.
I'm saying they shouldn't be encouraged.
That's what you said, though, and I really
children.
take offence to that, because, as I say, I am ADHD, I have depression.
Well, I'm
so
actually a
therefore,
child of the care system due to my biological mother being mentally ill.
And I'm
so
sorry
actually,
to hear
I
that.
don't think it's good to encourage mentally ill people to have children.
We all have our different journey, and I have that in my family as well, without having to express my whole private life. But yeah, I'm just really offended by what you said, and I'm not a trans woman or anything, but I'm really offended.
For both being so brave to say those things. Esther, I'm going to come to you.
So on the, I think to understand a bit more about kind of the surgery that was done. So the womb transplants last 5 years because that is the time that the doctors ascertain that it's medically safe for people to have womb transplants before their body completely rejects it. It's an extremely invasive surgery, and there are so many side effects. I mean, the person in this sort of successful surgery that we're talking about was a sister that gave it to her sister. So obviously there was a family relation there, but also she was, walked through all the lists of things that could possibly go wrong, like a perforated bowel. I mean, literally a wide range of...
And she might not actually carry a pregnancy to term and have a child.
So the thing is, the chances of even being able to carry a pregnancy after a womb transplant are so minuscule. It's almost, it's almost like the very early stages of IVF where people actually, likened it to a scam because the success rate was so low. I'm uncomfortable with this because obviously, when you have any major surgery, you have to believe that the benefits outrisk the risks. In the instance of a perfectly healthy woman undergoing this invasive major surgery so that a biological man can have a child, I find it deeply uncomfortable. I'm even quite uncomfortable with the whole kind of surrogacy trend, even though there are legitimate reasons why, for instance, a childless couple would want to employ the services of a surrogate mother, even though, again, pregnancy is extremely life-changing and it's you know, it completely changes your body. I think, should you just do that because the reasons have to be good enough, as opposed to someone not being bothered to have a child. So I don't think this is progress at all. I think the fact that, you know, we've somehow shoehorned trans individuals into this conversation. I mean, this was between two women. It was a sister, it was a family thing. I don't really understand why this is suddenly giving trans individuals hope. On the mentally ill front, I mean, I know you're referring to gender dysphoria.
The way I see it is giving transgender women a uterus is like giving an anorexic person diet pills. It's saying, do you know what? Yeah, your dysmorphia is correct. There is something wrong with you, and we're going to reinforce.
I mean, I understand and I agree with you in the sense that, yes, gender dysphoria is a mental health issue, and I don't think we should be pretending like
I think
somehow
it's like fueling on it.
Somehow a reality that exists only in your mind is reality. I completely agree with you there. That being said, I think we have to tread carefully, because I think if we actually talk about the medical risks associated with this very, very recent scientific breakthrough, that's probably a more potent argument than saying, you know, these people are mentally unwell and we shouldn't be encouraging them to have kids.
I mean, it's years and years away from ever actually happening anyway. So my point is, if a trans person feels like that is hope for them, who am I to say, oh, you shouldn't feel like that? That's up to them how they feel. But as far as the research,
anorexic person was saying that they were fat, would you say they were fat?
Christine, we'll come to you just after Aisleyne finishes.
I don't want to make it all about trans. What I was going to say was the amount of pregnancies that I've lost, the amount of babies that I've lost, I'd prefer cancer, for example. We've got so much other stuff that we need to be putting money into finding research for finding why is this happening to me, for example. How can we end cancer? That for me, a womb transplant is way down on the list of importance, and that's
yeah,
what
and it's also extremely invasive surgery. I mean, it's not the kind of stuff that you would advise someone to do.
And it's not just putting a uterus. You know, there's so much more intricacies that go involved.
You have to have
a
psychological evaluation. You have to make sure that the person is of childbearing age, is healthy. Your body's less likely to reject it. You are healthy as well. I mean, there's a plethora of things to get through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that I'm happy that this happened, but I really hope this doesn't become a trend.
Well, what the experts are saying, it can be anything between 5, 10 and even 20 years before this procedure can be carried out on trans women. But Christine, what do you think about the resources? A charity paid for this specific operation, but what do you think about the medical resources, the expertise, the finances? Could it be spent differently?
I actually have to completely agree with what you said. I think of all the things that modern science and modern medicine can do, this is what they're focusing on, and I think that it's exploiting those individuals.
The bottom line is, if it's a reality that exists only in your mind, like every cell in your body attests to the sex that you are, people can see that you are of a particular sex, and we need to treat it as something that is obviously unique to the individual, but also something of the mind.
Now, moving on, and the resurgence of the bimbo aesthetic that's prioritising beauty over brains is on a mission to disprove the original stereotype of cluelessly beautiful women. Today, the modern-day bimbo is a fresh approach to intersectional feminism, and the movement has gained steam on social media platforms such as TikTok, where videos with the hashtag bimbo have racked up around 1.5 billion views. Chrissy Chalpecker was one of the earliest pioneers of bimbo-ism on TikTok. She reaches that bimbos today are self-assured women who do what they want for themselves. Aisleyne.
I don't know why you came to me.
As a beautiful, empowered woman.
Thank you.
How do you feel about the term bimbo?
Oh, I was called a bimbo all growing up, not my whole life as a child, but certainly as a teenager and into my 20s, and even now, which I'm just an older bimbo now. It used to bother me. I used to be like, but I've got so much more to give. I'm not just how I look. I'm not just the shell. Yeah, okay, I don't have a Harvard education, but I'm streetwise. I've been through life. I've got so much to give, and it really used to anger me. And actually, when I went on to Big Brother, I was determined to smash the stereotype of, you know, oh, because I'm blonde and I got big boobs, I'm just a bimbo and that's all I can offer to the table. That's why I walked around with no eyebrows, no makeup on, and just, you know, to show that I had more to give than just my looks. But, you know, look who's laughing now. I'm still how I looked aesthetically then, blonde and big boobs, and I like to wear whatever the hell I want to wear. But I've made a success of my life, and so if that means being a bimbo, then I embrace it.
And Esther, do you think maybe this is a way for women to own the word in the way that sometimes women have done with the word bitch or slut?
Yeah, I mean, I take a slightly different view in the sense that someone calling you a bimbo or whatever, calling you a name, that's their opinion of you. And so far as I'm concerned, your opinion of me is your problem, right? Because your opinion of me if it doesn't align with my opinion of myself, it really doesn't and shouldn't have power. I find the interesting kind of argument that if you retake the word, somehow you're taking the power out of it, or you're transforming its meaning and all of that. And I don't really think that's necessary, because I think women and people in general are better than that. If you can have the mental fortitude to not be affected by these sorts of jabs, I think that's more powerful than, taking it onto yourself. It's like, Amber Rose's slut walk.
Yeah.
I understood the message behind it, because Amber Rose, this beautiful woman, had been called a slut and all sorts of derogatory terms her whole life, especially as a teenager. I mean, I remember she cited instances of sexual violence against her when she was a teenager, because they really took their view of her personally. But I thought, I didn't think that was the right way to handle it, because at the end of the day, you're still calling yourself a slut. I think words have meaning. Words are powerful. If someone calls me an idiot, and the way I handle it is to retake the word, I am an idiot and all of that. I don't think that's powerful or helpful. I just think,
I think it's de-weaponizing the word, though.
But I think it's more powerful because indifference is more powerful than love or hate.
Yeah, but definitely, on paper, you're right, but it's really hard if you're being, names are thrown at you constantly.
But the thing is, you frustrate the people throwing names at you.
I'm not bothered.
Yeah, but the thing is, you frustrate the people throwing names at you if they don't exist to you, if they're completely indifferent. This is the thing, that there's a thin line between love and hate, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a passionate emotion. But if you're calling me something and I don't even register that you're there, that you exist, I think that's far more powerful. And this is why I said, we know women have a lot more to offer, well, people in general, but in this case, women. We know women have a lot more to offer. We know that women are intelligent and we can do so many things that we put our minds to. Why do we even need to pay attention to people that feel the need to label us, either there be men or women?
No, I prefer to empower myself by saying, well, okay, then look at what this bimbo can do.
Christine, is this trend in some way playing down our intelligence? It's not doing what I think it's set out to do.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get what you're saying. I get it. I get the perspective. But I do disagree. I just think it's kind of, in my opinion, it's giving them more ammunition. And I have to agree with you that the indifference side of it, if you just don't even register it, it looks better. It's
hard though. You can't.
Of course it's hard. Of course it's hard. I can imagine.
But once you get to the top of that mountain,
position.
once you succeed at that hard thing,
but I've already done that.
It's so much. Listen, that's how you cope, and that's the whole point is to be able to cope and get through it. So that's perfectly valid.
Now, this is the part of the show where we take a look at some of the headlines circling our debate and we try to fill in the blanks. So, kicking off with the first one. NHS doctors are told not to ask trans patients their blank because it is rude, intrusive and insensitive, according to unofficial rules.
I believe it's their birth name. I don't know if they call it dead name. I don't know, the name on your birth certificate.
OK. Aisleyne?
Their sex.
OK. Christine?
Yeah, sex, I think.
Esther, you were right, exactly that. The conversation was around, the headline ran with names, but actually when you looked into the report a bit more, it was about not offending someone and saying, what's your original name, what's your birth name?
Or have you been known by any other names?
Yes.
Because apparently when a trans person transitions, the name that they were given at birth is now a dead name. So apparently that's, it triggers their dysphoria.
I just think it's ridiculous. Like, you can identify as what you want to identify in your own head. But your name is still your name. Like, unless they've actually gone and legally changed it, I don't know if that affects health
so
records.
that's the thing. You can, even if you legally change your name,
right? Because
sometimes you might have records under your original or your original name. So the doctors will ask, have you been known by any other name? But apparently that triggers some sort of anxious reaction.
So isn't that just more proof that these people need more help?
Well, I mean, the health
triggered
services,
by a question.
The health services,
that's a bit of a bigger debate.
Yeah, the health services stance is we try and make them as comfortable as possible.
Right, let's move on to the next one. Calling a transgender woman blank is discrimination because the insult commonly refers to men, tribunal suggests. Aisleyne, what do you think the blank could be?
Wanker.
This is an open forum here.
Sorry.
Christine?
A drag?
May.
Esther?
May. You know, like Sadiq Khan.
May, yeah.
Yeah, this campaign.
Well, Aisleyne was actually right. Correct.
What? I
Aisleyne, why did that spring to mind?
Why did it spring to my mind, honey? Do you know what happened to me the other day in the park? I was walking down the path in the middle of the day and I saw a man come out of the bushes completely naked, having a wank.
Oh, no.
So maybe that's why it sprang to mind, because right now I think they're all wankers.
please tell me you call the police.
I did, yes, I did.
Right, let's move on to the third and final one. NHS hospitals accused of erasing women after signing up to be blank by trans charities. Christine, what do you think that could be?
Supported?
Okay. Esther?
Yeah, let's go supportive.
Aisleyne?
Yeah, whatever you lot are saying.
Okay,
I don't know that one.
The correct answer is graded. So NHS hospitals accused of erasing women after signing up to be graded by trans charities. So there's a set of rules saying, you know, how comfortable will trans patients feel in this environment?
Right.
You know, do the hospital staff remember to ask a pronoun?
Right, OK. Well, as I say, it needs to be the same energy for everyone in every sector.
Absolutely.
So I'm all here for making people feel comfortable, but it has to be the same across the board.
All right, you've been sending us your questions ahead of this week's show, and we're going to do our best to answer one of them now. Bernadette asks, what about the babies in all of this? Or are the babies just a side issue on the road to self-gratification for men who think they are women? Christine, I've got to come to you first. Do you think trans women as a whole are considering the next step after they might be able to have children, what it would be like for the children involved?
No. I think the whole issue, at least what I have seen of it in my own experience, it's a very I don't want to say like selfish, but it's a very self-centered issue. It's a concern basically with how they are feeling on the inside rather than everything else around them, basically. And I don't really think they're considering the children. I think they're more just considering their own temporary feelings and failing to acknowledge that feelings are temporary, that feelings do come and go. I don't think that I think whoever this person was who said that is absolutely right. And I think they are just kind of focusing on what's going to make them happy rather than what might affect the children.
Aisleyne, what do you think?
Isn't that what everyone does when they think about having a child? They're thinking about the needs that they have to have a child, that they want to bring up a family. I mean, isn't it?
I mean, we obviously have an innate desire. I think the overwhelming majority of people have an innate desire to have children. But I think it's, you know, they're genuinely people that want to have kids because of they want to raise good members of society. Like, they're looking down the line. And I think if you talk to people past the age of like sort of 40 or 50, what they generally think of is the future and what the future will look like for their kids. You really orient your shifting and your thinking as you get older, because you start to look ahead and you start to think, gosh, I've got this wealth of experience. How do I pass it down? I think this comment is kind of spot on in the sense that it goes back to what I was referring to before. We need to reorient how we think about children and babies in society and the purpose that they serve, the purpose that we serve to them and they serve to us. Because then we look at it from a more mature perspective as opposed to I just want a baby and then therefore full stop. Because it's far bigger than trans people, for instance. I think that's not even the 1% of the issue.
Now, that is all we've got time for today. My thanks to Esther, Aisleyne and Christine. Don't forget to like, subscribe and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this debate, whether you agree, disagree with any of us. And we'll see you next time for more Women Unfiltered.